Magic lead the series 3-1. And top seed Steffi Graf of Germany beat Yayuk Basuki of Indonesia 6-2, 6-1 in the third round of the German Open today. Second seed Arantxa Sanchez Vicario of Spain and fourth seed Anke Huber of Germany. Second round winners Karina Habsudova upset ninth seed Martina Hingis of Switzerland. Tavo Alvarez on the disabled list. Alex Pacheco recalled from AAA Ottawa. Facero versus Candioti tonight at Chavez Ravine in Los Angeles. I'm Barry Morgan, CJAD Sports.
The ride home, CJAD Skywatch's Kevin Holden.
Eastbound 20 is slow due to an accident in the Turcotte Yards. Eastbound Met is also heavy due to a couple of accidents there. Northbound to Kerry, last report placed at delays beginning around Queen Mary. Westbound 20, not too bad. Heading to the South Shore, a lot of problems. 15 south to the Champlain, still very heavy, backed up before the La Vérendrye. Bonaventure's slow as well. Victoria and Jacques-Cartier will each cost you 15, probably more like 20 minutes. Mercier is not too bad. Not too many complaints about Mercier this afternoon. La Fontaine backed up to around Yves Prévost. Heading up north, northbound 13 has been very troublesome all afternoon. Try northbound Laurentian Auto Route. Don't try northbound Papineau. Morris the Suit People has genuine designer styling and quality with the Oscar de la Renta suit. Experience it for only $199.99 at Morris the Suit People. CJAD Skywatch Traffic.
Tonight, answers from the dentist. Travel plans with an agent, financing a film on credit cards, and going to the movies to feel better. That's all coming up starting at 7 p.m. with me, Peter Anthony Holder, here on AM 800 CJAD, where if you miss a little, you miss a lot.
Now, from the most listened to newsroom in Quebec, this is News from the Source. News Talk 800, CJAD, Montreal.
European archaeologists say humans did not come from Neanderthals. Saskatchewan, the first province to introduce a law to alert people of high-risk offenders living amongst them. 19 degrees in Montreal. We expect rain tomorrow, sunshine and warm weather again on Friday. The top story this hour, Liberal leader Johnson and Prime Minister Chrétien at odds over independence. Good evening, 6 o'clock, I'm Murray Sherriffs. Johnson has handed the Prime Minister a stern rebuke for saying the province would never be allowed to unilaterally declare independence. Johnson says it can happen. He says to pretend that it can't is wrong. And he doesn't stop there, adding he's surprised someone of Chrétien's political experience has commented on something hypothetical without knowing the question, the results of the vote, and saying, here's what I'd do in 4 to 5 years. The Prime Minister, meanwhile, has told ABC program Good Morning America Canada would not use force to keep Quebec in the Confederate fold. Chrétien says a clear vote on a clear question would mean Quebecers could leave peacefully.
Now that the Prime Minister has ruled out a unilateral declaration of independence, how does Ottawa enforce that view if Quebec goes ahead with the UDI?
Do you use force? Oh, no, not in democracy. I always said that in a democracy, you cannot keep a population against its will.
Intergovernmental Affairs Minister Stéphane Dion says it's not force, but litigation that would prevent Quebec from leaving Canada unilaterally. He says individuals and governments would file so many legal challenges to a UDI, it would make such a move impractical. Bruce Meyer, CJAD News, Parliament Hill.
Mike Harris, Ontario Premier, says the national unity debate is boiling down to two Quebec politicians, Chrétien and Bouchard, jockeying for position leading up to another referendum. He says if there is going to be another vote, all Canadians need to know the rules.
We seem to be in uncharted territory here. What are we voting on? And, it was not clear at all, I don't think, in the last referendum what actually the vote meant. And so I think anything that would help clarify that would be beneficial.
The provincial Liberals, meanwhile, have derailed a motion by Premier Bouchard seeking to reaffirm the right of Quebecers to decide their own future. When the National Assembly resumed sitting this morning, the Grits began debate on the budget presented last week by Bernard Landry, because the budget takes priority over all. Meanwhile, Quebec government lawyers are trying something new in their bid to quash the Bertrand court case. They're arguing the 1982 Constitution can't be used to block a referendum or a unilateral declaration of sovereignty because it was never officially translated into French. Bertrand says the Bouchard people are trying to fool the Quebec people. Do you recall all the optimism about a day ago the people at Montreal City Hall expressed regarding talks with its blue-collar workers? Well, here it is, 24 hours later, and you can hear the calls for provincial intervention from where you sit. We have two reports.
Just a day ago, Executive Committee Chair Nusha Galoyan was saying that some last-minute proposals put on the table by both sides merited more study. Now, she says, the city and its blue-collar workers are unable to agree beyond the abstract.
What does that mean? That proposal means in terms of dollars. What does that mean in terms of problems as far as the operations are concerned?
So the city is going back to the provincial government to again demand legislative intervention. Galoyan says that doesn't necessarily mean an imposed contract. She's calling on the province to come up with some creative solutions.
Montreal blue-collar union officials say any creative solutions will have to come from City Hall, not from Quebec City. Quebec Federation of Labour Vice President Gilles Charland is calling on the province to send the Book administration a clear message that it will not intervene.
So the city will have to sit and settle.
The union says the sticking point was and remains staffing levels, which the city wants to eliminate. The union says the Book administration would then have free rein to contract out work currently performed by municipal blue-collar workers, in effect, says Charland, handing over city management to the private sector.
They don't have any management, no employees to control and to manage, so it's the easy way they want to do it.
Contract talks began 4 years ago. Claude Baulieu, CJAD News. Was there an explosion on ValueJet Flight 759 last weekend, and did that contribute to it slamming into a Florida Everglade at 359 miles per hour? It's one of many aspects still being investigated. Meanwhile, there is a plan to ferry the families of the dead from the aircraft to the crash scene.
The families will be taken down a narrow levee along the swamp as far as it's possible to go. Then they'll have an hour or so to spend as they wish. A local florist has provided 200 white carnations for survivors to toss into the water. And a large wreath will be loaded on an airboat, which will place it in the huge crater where Flight 592 hit the ground. But families won't see that. It's too far from the makeshift roadway. Bill Greenwood, ABC News in the Florida Everglades.
Saskatchewan is the first province in Canada to introduce a law to alert people when high-risk sex offenders are in their midst. We have a report from Jay Branch.
Under the Public Disclosure Act, an independent committee will decide whether information which would identify an offender should be released. Justice Minister John Nielsen says one of the primary reasons for making it law is for protection in the event of legal action by the offender.
This legislation is set up to provide absolute protection to the police and to the committee, that if they're doing their job in good faith, they can't be sued.
Nielsen says the legislation is aimed primarily at dangerous sexual offenders, but adds it could cover anyone who might be a danger to the community.
The biggest cigarette manufacturer in the United States has issued a proposal to preempt anti-tobacco legislation. Correspondent Warren Levinson.
Philip Morris says it would urge a ban on cigarette vending machines and strong limits on tobacco advertising that could reach children on one condition: the government calls off the FDA. The nation's largest tobacco company says if the government stops efforts to regulate cigarettes, it would support the removal of cigarette logos from sports arenas.
A team of European archaeologists says modern humans did not descend from Neanderthals, that we may have been neighbors, though. The scientists say they have found evidence that Cro-Magnons and Neanderthals lived side by side and even traded jewelry with one another. But they say their studies of Neanderthal bones found at a site in central France indicate modern humans did not evolve from them. Their findings are in the journal Nature, and they add to the debate as to whether or not Neanderthals were our ancestors and whether or not two different species of human beings lived at the same time in the same place. Cro-Magnons, direct ancestors of modern humans, arrived in Europe about 35,000 years ago. The experts say the Neanderthals were not the large, shambling, hairy cavemen depicted in cartoons, but rather sensitive and intelligent beings, more muscular than we are, and they walked upright. CJAD News Time, 6:08.
This is Barry Morgan. Coming up on CJAD Sports at 6:25, Tavo Alvarez, the third Expo starter to be placed on the disabled list this year. We'll tell you why on CJAD Sports at 6:25.
I'm Murray Sherriffs with news every 30 minutes. You're listening to CJAD.
Now, more of The Drive with Duff on AM 800 CJAD.
6:12 CJAD time. Coming up in this hour, Rod Dewar says it's the economy, stupid. He's talking to Lucien Bouchard. And Rick Moffat's Scam Busters tonight. Another Drive with Duff exclusive on telemarketing and pyramid firms. John Moore tackles Siskel and Ebert and the Outremont redevelopment plan. It turned ugly. We have a mea culpa from Serge Menard. And we hear from both Peter Trent of the Council of Suburban Mayors and Outremont Mayor Jerome Unterberg, who says, hey, wait a sec, I never said the project was green-lighted again. Also, Voyageur tells Pierre F. Cote to put it where the sun don't shine. CJAD time, 6:12. Let's go to our weather center now. Meteorologist Ed Cowell.
We can expect these clear skies to remain with us at least through this evening, although there will be clouds spreading in on us overnight, ahead of a disturbance that's moving our way from just south of the Great Lakes. That will keep our temperatures milder than they've been the last couple of nights overnight, dropping to between 4 and 10 degrees throughout our listening area, as winds shift to the southeast, increasing to 15 to 30. Tomorrow we have unsettled weather as that disturbance crosses our region. We'll have mostly cloudy skies, along with scattered rain showers, and winds out of the southeast up to 30, with highs of 14 to 18. For Friday, behind that disturbance, as high pressure builds back in, we can expect a return to lots of sunshine, a few cloudy periods, and highs of 15 to 18. I'm Ed Cowell from the CJAD Weather Center.
Still sitting at, it's just gone up, man, 20 degrees, 68 Fahrenheit in Midtown Montreal. 6:16 CJAD time. Here's Rod Dewar.
It's the economy, stupid. That phrase from Bill Clinton's presidential campaign, the first one that is, has more than a passing relevance to our predicament. Thanks to the quiet revolution and the subsequent legislative spin-offs, i.e. Bill 101, the French language and culture is on as solid an island as could be hoped for in a North American sea of English speakers. The battle for linguistic and cultural survival having been more or less won, Quebecers who favor independence now do so because, rightly or wrongly, they believe an autonomous Quebec state offers a better chance of a decent standard of living than a Canada that is, so they say, rapidly consigning itself to third world status, headed by an administration obsessed with redressing public finances on the backs of the most disadvantaged citizens. Inherent in this right-wing corporate agenda is the prospect of even greater unemployment and poverty. While the federal government cuts transfer payments, thereby reducing the tax-funded health and welfare programs, which were designed to help people weather the economic storm. These mean-spirited policies only serve to give the sovereignty option greater credibility. It's at least arguable that Ottawa's decision to pull out all the constitutional stops has something to do with the post-referendum realization that its warnings of economic disaster should Quebec separate have had little, if any, impact in a province where unemployment in some regions is more than twice the national average. Of course, Quebecers aren't the only Canadians suffering from right-wing disease, now inflicting so many Western societies. The difference is that sovereignty is perceived to offer an alternative to this sorry state of economic affairs, the problem being that separation can be worse than the disease it purports to cure. I'm Rod Dewar. Good night and good luck.
To the CJAD Business Desk now, here's Arnis Peterson.
Business Report is brought to you by Royal Bank Action Direct, discount brokerage services. A record number of people are driving into Canada for the day, more following the closing markets.
In New York, light crude up 6.